Euzu billahi mineşşeytanirracim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Elhamdülillahi rabbil alamin. Ves salatu vesselamu ala seyyidina Muhammedin ve ala alihi ve sahbihi ecmaîn. Allahumme allimna ma yenfa'una ve enfa'na bima 'allamtana ve zidna ilmen nafi'a. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the Reflections on the Risale-i Nur by Bediuzzaman Said Nursi podcast series. In this episode, inshallah, we will continue reading from the second station of the 14th Flash. The 14th Flash is about the secrets of Basmalah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of God, the Merciful, the Mercy Giver, or the Merciful, the Compassionate, as it is sometimes translated. We already read the first four secrets, and inshallah, in this episode, we will begin reading the fifth secret. Bismillah. Beşinci sır, fifth mystery. Bir hadis-i şerifte varid olmuş ki, İnna Allahe halakal insane ala suretir Rahman, ev kema kal. It has been narrated in an honorable tradition of the Prophet sallallahu aleyhi ve sellem that God created man, humans, in the form of Ar-Rahman, the Merciful One, the Most Merciful. Bu hadisi bir kısım ehli tarikat, akaid-i imaniyeye münasip düşmeyen acip bir tarzda tefsir etmişler. This prophetic tradition has been interpreted by some of the followers of Sufism in a strange way that is not consistent with the tenets of belief. Hatta onlardan bir kısım ehli aşk, insanın sima-i manevisine bir suret-i Rahman nazarıyla bakmışlar. Moreover, some of them who were ecstatics, so this is how it is translated, ehli aşk. Aşk is intense love, and in a state of intense love, one's faculties of discernment may become blunt. One may not see well, one may not hear well, one may not process the information that's coming from outside well, one may not think well. It is almost like a state of drunkenness. So when Ustad Nursi is referring to Ahl Ashq here, he is referring to those who have become drunk, who have entered in a state of ecstasy and become drunk out of the intensity of their love for God. So this is not a bad thing in and of itself, but it may have, let's not say bad, but inappropriate consequences that might be permissible for the person who is in a state of intense love and therefore is like drunk out of the ecstasy of that love. But for others who are observing from outside with their intellect and reasoning fully in place to approve of what they say or do, or to pretend to be in a state of love and to do what those do, or to imitate them without that state of ecstasy itself, then that is not permissible, because the tenets of belief, iman, the pillars of religion, and all the rulings that come from the Qur'an and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, these are the foundation, and without the foundation we cannot presume to be following a path that will lead us to God. That's the foundation, that's the path that's set by God. For those who are in a state of ecstasy and drunkenness, to steer away from the path a little bit until they recover their senses and come back to it, that might be permissible. But for those who are not in a state of ecstasy and therefore drunk and therefore have their intellect and reason in place, that is not permissible. So what Ustad Nursi is saying here is, some of them who were ecstatics, some of the Ahl al-Ashq, some of the people of intense love in their state of ecstasy, have even considered man's spiritual nature or man's spiritual countenance, the meanings that appear on the countenance of the humanity, or each individual and humanity together. But we are referring to the meanings that appear on their metaphysical countenance, spiritual nature, to be in the form of the All-Merciful, the Rahman, Ar-Rahman. Ehl-i tarikatın ekserinde sekir, ehli aşkın çoğunda istigrak ve iltibas olduğundan hakikate muhalif telakkilerinde belki mazurdurlar. So this is what Ustad Nursi is saying. I gave the explanation in advance, but he is saying it more concisely. Since the people of intense love are drowned in their state of love, and as a result of which can confuse things, and since the followers of tariqah, followers of the Sufi path, many of them, or even most of them, can find themselves in the state of ecstatic drunkenness, they are perhaps to be excused in holding views contrary to reality. We should make a note that Ustad Nursi is saying what he says here out of tanzih. Tanzih, i.e., he is first putting these people on the side and clarifying that this is not an accusation against them. He is clearing them. Right? He is exonerating them in advance and explaining that what comes next is not an accusation targeted against them. They are excused. Now we will talk about acts and actions and thoughts and so on and so forth that may not be excused if done or held in belief not in a state of ecstasy. Fakat aklı başında olanlar fikren onların esası akaide münafi olan manalarını kabul edemez. But those whose intellect is in place, whose intellect has not been blocked by the intensity of their love, cannot accept the meanings, the considerations of those people of intense love that are contrary to the foundations of belief. Etse hata eder. If they do, they are in error. Evet, bütün kainatı bir saray, bir ev gibi muntazam idare eden ve yıldızları zerreler gibi hikmetli ve kolay çeviren ve gezdiren ve zerratı muntazam memurlar gibi istihdam eden Zat-ı Akdes İlahi'nin şeriki, naziri, zıttı, nitti olmadığı gibi leyse kemislihi şey'un ve huves semi'ul basir sırrıyla sureti misli misali şebihi dahi olamaz. Now here Ustad Nursi is going to give us in one sentence the summary of some of the foundations of aqaid, the science of the foundational beliefs of Islam. In one sentence, it is a long sentence, but it still is one sentence. But we need to read it very carefully, trying to understand, inshallah. Yes, I will first read the translation and then we will work on it. Yes, the most pure and holy deity who administers with order the whole universe as though it was a palace or house, and spins the stars as though they were particles, and causes them to travel through space with wisdom and ease, and employs minute particles as though they were orderly officials, has no partner, match, opposite, or equal. So also according to the meaning of the verse, لَيْسَ أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٌ وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ, there is nothing whatever like unto him. He hears and sees all things, or he is the all-hearer, all-seer. This is from the Qur'an, the chapter 42, verse 11. According to this verse, he has no form, likeness, or peer. There is nothing resembling or similar to him. Let's try to go over this one more time. Yes, the Zat-ı Akdes-i İlahi, the most holy essence of our God, of God, the most holy essence of God, i.e. God. But he's not just saying God, he's qualifying it. He is telling us how we should understand God, especially in this context. What attributes of God he is referring to his most holiness. right? His being above and beyond our imagination and above and beyond his creation. His elevation over everything, not in a physical sense, right? But in terms of station and honor, and also in terms of similarity. He is above and beyond. The most holy essence of God. And how do we know that? How can we bring this closer to our understanding? How can we understand his holiness and aboveness and power and might and tremendous and so on and so forth? Put all of those here. How can we understand that? The signs in the creation. We learn about God from the signs in the creation. Where do we turn in the creation? Ustad Nursi is saying here is the most holy essence of God. God who administers, organizes the whole universe with order, with perfect order, orderliness, as though it was a palace or house, as though he is running the affairs of a house. And one who runs the affairs of a house would know that even that is not easy. There is no human being, I would say, out there who runs a house with the kind of perfect order that God runs, that God organizes and administers the universe. So from that we have a point of comparison, measure that helps us understand what might be going on. Let's use the word mirror. From there we have a mirror that reflects some of the meanings that we need to understand in this context. We human beings try to run our houses. We cannot do it in perfect order. God, who is above and beyond, who is tremendous, is organizing, administering, running the entire universe, entire cosmos, entire creation in perfect order. That should make our jaws fall and put us in a state of awe. So the one who organizes the entire universe like a palace or house, the one who spins the stars as if they are small tiny particles. The stars, those huge, tremendously big, massive things, he's spinning them as if they are little pieces of dust floating in the air with such ease, and who employs particles as if they are orderly officers or officials, as if they were instructed in advance and they know what to do, where to do, when to do, and they are ready to receive orders, and they are perfectly able to fulfill the orders that are given to them. So we are talking about a God who is in charge from the massive stars to the tiniest particles, and there is no misconduct, perfect order. This gives us a sign as to his holiness, as to his aboveness, as to his greatness, as to his tremendousness. So that God has no partner. There can be no partner to the one who is in charge of everything. The word for partner that is used here is sharik, and some of these words might be worth learning. So he has no sharik, no partner. He has no nazir, match. Something similar, that something is a match for him. He has no zid, opposite. And he has no nid, equal. Shariki, naziri, ziddi, niddi. Right? Partner, match, opposite or equal. He has none of those. He doesn't have an opposite either, because he cannot be compared to anything. Opposites emerge from comparisons. We compare two colors with each other, and we say black is the opposite of white. But we also acknowledge in that comparison that they are both colors. So God cannot be placed in the same category as something else. Therefore, he does not have an opposite. He does not have a match. He does not have an equal. And in accordance with the teaching of the verse, لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٌ وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ, there is nothing that is like him. Right? There is nothing that is like him. He sees all, he hears all, and he sees all. He has no form, because everything we see around, we see that they have forms. Human beings have the form of, let's say, 2 legs, 2 arms, a body, a torso, a mouth, face, and so on and so forth. Some animals have 4 legs. Some animals have wings. Trees have a certain shape. They have a trunk and then branches and then leaves. So all of these have forms, and this is an aspect of materiality. But God has no form, because there's nothing out there that is like Him, and everything out there that we see and observe and know of have form. So He is not like any of that, therefore He has no form. Misli, He has no like. There's nothing that is like Him, that is similar to Him. Misali, or similitude, or shabihi, something that is likeness. There is no such thing out there. We learn about God from His signs, and that is something that we have to do, but at the same time we preserve His sanctity. We preserve His sanctity, and this is a foundational judgment. This is a foundational ruling. We preserve His sanctity in whatever we say, and if what we say infringes upon that sanctity, we understand that there is a contradiction between the tenets of faith, the foundational tenets of our faith, and what we are seeing. فقط وله المثل الأعلى في السماوات والأرض وهو العزيز الحكيم sırrıyla mesel ve temsil ile şuunatına ve sıfat ve esmasına bakılır. So, God has no form, no likeness, no partner, no opposite, no equal. We sanctify Him first, but then Ustad Nursi is moving on to say that in accordance with the secret of the verse that I just read, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وله المثل الأعلى في السماوات والأرض وهو العزيز الحكيم. In accordance with the secret of this verse, which can be translated as, and His is the highest similitude in the heavens and the earth, and He is exalted in might, full of wisdom. And His is the highest similitude. Or we can also understand this, and His are the highest, best of examples. He is the one who gives us the best of examples. And He does give us best of examples. He gives us examples in the Qur'an to help us understand Him, to help us attain a knowledge of Him. So this is a legitimate method, as we talked about in one of the earlier episodes. وَلَهُ الْمَثَلُ الْأَعْلَى. This is a method that is employed in the Qur'an, and therefore we have the permission to employ it in order to learn about God. Examples. We move on from metaphors or examples or comparisons. So, with the secret of this verse, we can look at, so not we know the reality of, but we can look at His names, attributes, and shu'unat. We can use examples and comparisons to look at His names, attributes, and shu'unat. Now, the word shu'unat is a difficult word to translate. It has a terminological meaning in Ustad Nursi's usage. We can translate it maybe as acts or actions, which is what Shukran Wahida has used, but that does not convey the full meaning. These are stages of knowing God. We start from the altar. We start from the creation, and we look at the acts that has brought those creation into existence. This is called af'al. And then we look at the names that are behind those acts. The act, the Arabic word here for act is fi'al, which means verb, right? And then from fi'al we can make fa'il. We can make names out of verbs, like to do and then doer, to make and then maker, to see and then seer, right? And then there are attributes that qualify these names, sifat, right? So these are usually the best known stages in, let's say, the science of knowing God, as our scholars, our Gnostics have contemplated the creation in order to reach a knowledge of God, right? And then in some Sufi circles, especially in the usage of Imam Rabbani, Ahmed Sirhindi of the 10th century of the Hijra, another stage has been added to this, which is shu'un. Now, acts. Again, it's not the same word though. In Arabic, the word in Arabic was fi'al, and here it is shu'un, which is the plural of a word that is used in the Qur'an, sha'n. In the Qur'an, God tells us that He is onto something, onto an act at all times, every day, right? Or at all times, right? So this is the plural of that. But then Ustad Nursi makes it even a double plural. He makes the plural word shu'un, shu'unat. He makes another plural. So there is a subtle terminological meaning that is in Ustad Nursi's usage. It might be early to delve into the details of that at this point. Let's just understand that it is a stage, it is a concept, notion that we use. It is an instrument. Let's put this way. It is an instrument. It's a cognitive instrument that we can use in our contemplation to know God. That is even more advanced than the more usually employed concepts, notions of acts, names, and attributes, af'al, asma, and sifa. So we can use examples and comparisons and metaphors, parables, in order to look at His names and attributes and shu'unat, with the permission that we obtained from the Qur'an, which is, perhaps most clearly articulated in this verse, but it is also visible throughout the Qur'an in the way that the Qur'an teaches us. Demek mesel ve temsil şuunat noktayı nazarında vardır. That is to say, mesel ve temsil, using examples and representations, comparisons, metaphors, is permissible from the point of view of His actions, or in regard to His actions, His shu'unat. And shu'unat is the furthest stage after asma and sifat and acts and so on and so forth. Therefore, if it is permissible in regard to shu'unat, then it is permissible to the others too. However, we sanctified His essence, zat. We sanctified God's zat. We cannot look at His zat. We cannot look at His essence. But we can look at His acts, attributes, names, and Ustad Nursi is adding another stage here, or using another stage that was added by Gnostics, saints, friends of God that lived before him, and expanding on it with regard to His shu'unat, God's shu'unat. Let's repeat this. Examples, metaphors, comparisons, representations rather, let's not say comparison, but representations are permissible with regard to God's acts, attributes, names, and shu'unat, but not with regard to His essence. We sanctify His essence. Şu mezkür hadis-i şerifin çok makasıdından birisi şudur ki. Now, Ustad Nursi provided a methodological foundation, a methodological introduction. He said that these are the principles that we need to employ in understanding the above mentioned hadith. God created man or humans in the form of Ar-Rahman, the Merciful. So, once he provided these principles, these foundations, he is now moving on to tell us how we should understand the hadith, how we should understand the prophetic tradition. In that case, one of the many purposes, one of the many meanings that are contained in the meaning of the above mentioned prophetic tradition is as follows. İnsan ismi Rahman'ı tamamıyla gösterir bir surettedir. Okay, what is it? Man, human beings, are in a form that shows, that points to the name of Ar-Rahman, the most merciful, in its entirety. Now, remember, we said the entire creation cosmos are full of signs. Everything manifests God's names and attributes, and each thing in the creation manifests God's names and attributes. Right? So do human beings. But everything manifests God's names in certain combinations, certain proportions. On some things, let's say the name Al-Jabbar is more dominant. In some things, let's say the Al-Jamil is more dominant. When we look at a beautiful butterfly floating in the air in the spring in a beautiful sunny day, what that brings to our hearts is not the name Al-Qahar. If we think carefully and deeply, we can reach the name Al-Qahar from there too. But the thing that comes first is Al-Jamil, Al-Latif, Al-Rahman. So what Ustad Nursi is saying here is man's form, the countenance of man, the character of man, the nature of man, the nature of human beings. Surat is the word that's used, and literal translation would be form. But what is meant here is the nature of human beings show, point to, indicate, manifest the divine name of the most merciful or all merciful, Ar-Rahman, in its entirety, completely. Evet, sabıkan beyan ettiğimiz gibi kainatın simasında binbir ismin şualarından tezahür eden ismi Rahman göründüğü gibi zemin yüzünün simasında rububiyet-i mutlaka-i ilahiyenin hadsiz cilveleriyle tezahür eden ismi Rahman gösterildiği gibi insanın sureti camiasında küçük bir mikyasta zeminin siması ve kainatın siması gibi yine o ismi Rahman'ın cilve-i etemmini gösterir demektir. Yes, as we have been explained before, so there's a reference to an earlier discussion here, and the reference is to the first secret of the second station of the 14th Flash that we read before. As we had explained before, just as the divine name of All Merciful, Ar-Rahman, is manifest through the rays of 1,001 names. And look at this expression. The name Ar-Rahman is manifest through the rays of 1,001 names. That is, it is one name, but it becomes manifest from the interaction of all names, or 1,001 names. It is a name, but it's almost like an embroidery, the centerpiece of an embroidery that emerges from the coming together of thousands of threads from multiple directions and being combined there. So, just as the divine name of All Merciful is manifest through the rays of 1,001 names on the face of the universe, on the face of the cosmos, and it is apparent through the innumerable manifestations of God's absolute lordship on the face of the earth. So those who have read or listened to the first secret will remember this. God's name, Ar-Rahman, is manifest on the cosmos, and then we go in concentric circles on the face of the earth, and then he said on the face of humans, in the nature of humans. So there is that human part is being opened up in this secret. So as it is manifest on the face of the cosmos and on the face of the earth, so also is the complete manifestation of the name All Merciful apparent in a small measure in man's comprehensive form, like on the face of the earth and the face of the universe. Now, if you remember our discussion of Wahidiyya, for instance, what we said there is Wahidiyya refers to that everything is a manifestation of God's oneness. God manifests Himself and therefore His names and attributes on everything all together. And to see this, to comprehend this, to behold this, one needs to have an eye and a heart that is as big as the earth or maybe the cosmos. to keep them all together at once in one's mind or in one's heart is difficult. We say Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, all praise is to the Lord of the realms, and we need to try to imagine what we are saying. We are mentioning the name of the one who is the owner of everything. And to understand this, we need to know what everything is. Because, let's say, for an ignorant peasant who has never left his village, the world may be big, but what he imagines big, based on what he has seen around him throughout his entire life, and imagine this like pre-modern education. There were people who never left their villages or the vicinity of their villages in their entire lives. So this peasant will have a notion of the world that is, let's say, limited to 100, 200 square miles of the space that he has been to throughout his life. But compare that to the vision and conception of an astronomer who sees the Earth from a spaceship and then flies over it. Compare the notion, the conception of the astronomer about the size of the world. It's almost incomparable, right? There's a big difference between the one who can behold the entire world and who can behold only a small portion of the world. Us as human beings are able to behold a portion of the cosmos, a very limited portion of the existence. And therefore, in our limitedness, in our containment to what our senses can notice, recognize, we have difficulty being able to comprehend what Rabbul Alameen means. For one to understand what Rabbul Alameen means, one needs to be able to move above that, the way the Prophet ﷺ moved above that during his ascension, Mi'raj, and saw everything from above. And he had a good sense of rank and meaning. But it is difficult for us in our limitedness and in our containment in what we can observe through our senses. We can have a sense of it, we can try to imagine it, but whatever we imagine, that's going to be very limited. And this is a difficulty, a problem. And in order to compensate for this problem that we have as human beings, that results from the limitedness of our abilities, God, out of His mercy, offers us another way to know Him. Now, the first one is important, and it is where we observe His majesty, majestic attributes, Jalali attributes, the most and the best. And the more we can observe that, the more we can think of that, the more we can immerse ourselves in the meanings that emanate from that greatness, the better. But God is offering us other ways of knowing Him, and this relates to the notion of ahadiyat that we discussed. God manifests Himself on each thing with all His names. Some of the names are more dominant there, some of them are less dominant, but they are all there. And therefore, wherever we turn, we see Him. And not only that, He has also placed the seal of His mercy on this manifestation. He manifests Himself everywhere, and He also manifests Himself in such a beautiful way on each thing that our attention is automatically turned there. We have a desire to focus on these beauties, and they are beautiful, and because they are beautiful, it is easier. We are already attracted to it. There is an ease in this. Alhamdulillah, praise be to Lord, the one who has provided us with so many means and so many different means of knowing Him. And Ustad Nursi is referring here to the nature of man as one of those each things that God manifests Himself. But the special aspect of the nature of human is that God manifests all of his names in the most beautiful and in the most powerful way that is possible on the nature of human. The Rabbul Alameen, the Lord of the realms, with all his attributes and names, is manifest on the nature of the human being. And that's why they say the cosmos is an enlarged human being, and a human being is a, if you will, shrunk cosmos. Each human being carries the cosmos in himself, and therefore there are signs to knowing our Lord from inside, and there are signs, and fusi is the word we use for this, internal, and there are ways to knowing our Lord, there are signs to knowing our Lord from outside. Al-Faqih is the word that we are going to use for this, from external sources. And Ustad Nursi is saying that one of the meanings of this prophetic tradition in that case should be that Ar-Rahman, the most merciful, has manifested himself in the most expansive way on the nature of human beings. Hem işarettir ki Zat-ı Rahman-ı Rahim'in delilleri ve ayneleri olan zihayat ve insan gibi mazharlar o kadar o zat-ı vacib-ül vücuda delaletleri kat'i ve vazıh ve zahirdir ki güneşin timsalini ve aksini tutan parlak bir ayine parlaklığına ve delaletinin vuzuhuna işareten o ayine güneştir denildiği vakit insanda suret-i Rahman var vuzuhu delaletine ve kemal-i münasebetine işareten denilmiş ve denilir. And then there is another indication in this prophetic tradition. The prophetic tradition that we are talking about points to another meaning. The animate creatures and human beings are evidences to and mirrors of the essence of the necessarily existent one. That is God. Right? God is the necessarily existent one. Ustad Nursi is saying that animate beings and humans are a locus for the manifestation of the necessarily existent one, essence of the necessarily existent one, and therefore there are such a receptive locus for this manifestation that the evidence that they provide to the necessarily existent one is very clear and very certain and very visible. It is as if you hold a shiny mirror, a very clean, very perfect mirror. You hold a perfect mirror to the sun, and the mirror reflects the sun with all of its light, with all of its colors, and so on and so forth. If you hold a dirty mirror, it's going to reflect part of it, and other parts are going to be blocked. Other aspects of the light are going to be blocked with the dirt on the mirror. So imagine a very shiny, very bright, perfect mirror, and imagine that you are holding it to the sun, and it is going to reflect the sun as not as the sun is, because the reality of the sun is something very different, but in the best possible way that a mirror can reflect the sun. And when this happens, as an indication of the clarity of this mirror's ability to point to show, to prove the existence of the sun and its attributes, one can say that this mirror is the sun. In the same way, that Nursi is explaining us this prophetic tradition by saying that the merciful one has created humans in his form, in his appearance, pointing to the fact that there is an appearance and manifestation, a surah, an appearance of the merciful one in human beings. And as a result, human beings are providing a very clear evidence, indication of the most merciful one. They are showing the most merciful one in the best possible way, and they maintain the most perfect relationship with the merciful one. Ve ehli vahdetül vücudun mutedil kısmı la mevcude illa hu bu sırra binaen bu delaletin vuzuhuna ve bu münasebetin kemaline bir ünvan olarak demişler. And those of the people of the unity of existence, Vahdatul Vujud. This is we can think of it as a school in Sufi thought. Oftentimes it is related to Muhyiddin al-Arabi. It did exist before Muhyiddin al-Arabi, and then it continued to exist after him. There were many people who misunderstood what he was saying and took this view out of its logical and accurate path. But regardless, started doing tanzih here again. He's exonerating some followers of the idea of unity of existence. He is saying, among the moderate ones of the people of Wahdat al-Wujud, unity of existence, when they say La mawjuda illa hu, there is nothing that is in existence other than He, other than God. When they say this, right, they say this because of their understanding of this secret, and they are making it as a sign for the clarity of the human nature's proof for the most merciful one, and the powerfulness, the intensity of the perfection and intensity of this relationship that they have with the most merciful one. They understand the intensity of this relationship between human beings and God, and the clarity of the evidence that human nature provides to the most merciful one. And they say La mawjuda illa hu in relation to this clarity that they see in the manifestations, the clarity that they see in the mirrors. Those who are moderate among the people of the idea of the unity of existence, they know that there is a mirror there, and the mirror is reflecting the sun. But when they say there is nothing in existence other than God, and in this example that would be there is nothing in existence other than the sun, what they are saying is they know that the mirror exists and this is a reflection, but they are referring to the clarity in a metaphorical sense. They are referring to the clarity of the image that is visible on the mirror. Allahumma ya Rahmanu ya Rahimu bihaqqi bismillahir rahmanir rahim irhamna kama yaliku bi rahimiyatika wa fahimna asrara bismillahir rahmanir rahim kama yaliku bi rahmaniyatika. Amin. Here Ustad Nursi is ending with a beautiful dua, and I will read the translation, and we may need to work on it a little bit, but let's read the translation first. O God, O the most merciful one, most compassionate one, through the truth of in the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate, have mercy on us as befits your compassionateness, and allow us to understand the mysteries of in the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate, as befits your mercifulness. Amin. O God, Allahumma, Ya Allahu, right? Allahumma, O the most merciful one, Ya Rahmanu, the mercy giver, Ya Rahimu, through the reality of in the name of God, bihaqqi bismillahir rahmanir rahim, for the sake of, through the reality of, or for the sake of this expression, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, in the name of God, the merciful, the mercy giver. Allow us to benefit from your mercy. Bless us with your mercy. Have mercy on us in a way that befits your Rahimiyah, your attribute of mercy giving, which is specific. If we are going to have an analogy, Ar-Rahman relates to Al-Wahid as God's oneness is manifest on everything altogether, and Ar-Rahim is specific as God's mercy, God's oneness, and all of His attributes concentrate on each thing one by one. An analogy for this might be that Ar-Rahman, in an analogy to Wahid, is, let's assume it's raining outside. The water drops do not pick where they are falling. It's falling everywhere. The rain falls everywhere, and whoever has a container can go out and hold it up to the heavens and fill the container with rainwater. It's raining everywhere, and this is Ar-Rahman. The mercy, God's mercy is everywhere. He is constantly showering us with His mercy, and that showering is not distinguishing between the believer and non-believer, and animate and non-animate, and inanimate, and this and that. It's falling, constantly falling, and we are all benefiting from it, even the non-believers in this world. Right? Even those who do not appear to deserve it, they are benefiting from it. But Rahimiyya, Ar-Rahim, it is like you are thirsty, and the one who is merciful knows you are thirsty, recognizes your thirst, fills a cup of water, brings it, and gives it to you. So this is another way to think about Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim. And here Said Nursi is making dua and saying is, for the sake of, or through the truth of Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, immerse us in your Rahimiyyah. Give us your special blessings. Look at us, Ya Rab, look at us in a way that befits your Rahimiyyah, and allow us to understand the secrets of Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim in a way that befits your Rahmaniyyah. So the first one was very special, and the second one is at an intellectual level, and the intellect is broad. It does not become subjective. And when I say subjective here, I don't mean the opposite of objective. I don't mean the opposite of neutral. But I mean that it is valid throughout. Its validity does not change according to circumstances. Under the same circumstances, the intellect will produce the same results, unless our subjectivity is involved in it, and we move away from sound intellect, sound reason. Understanding relates to the intellect, and then at the next stage it's going to have something in the heart, and that's different, right? But when he makes this dua, he's saying, as it befits your Rahmaniyya, as it befits your mercy, as it is manifest on everything altogether without distinguishing. Alhamdulillah, we finished the fifth secret too, and inshallah in the next episode we will move on to the sixth secret, and that is the last secret we are going to read in the second station of the 14th Flash. Then we will move on to the second word, inshallah. If you are benefiting from these recordings, please share it with others so that they can also benefit. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة.